All right, so this is my second DIY recording, and I'm going to be talking about a trip I took in the middle of October, um, which was a bit ago, but I think I have to reflect on because this was actually a trip out of state. It was right now as a senior, I'm looking to apply to grad schools, and one of them that I'm trying to apply to is Cornell. They're doing a sort of program right now where they take the people who are trying to apply, they sort of pay for a trip to Cornell, like to encourage you to make sure you do apply, to consider a Cornell experience. I got to fly over there to Ithaca, New York, um, for a good 3 day trip, and I'll have the pictures up, of course. It was definitely a different perspective. The university itself was fine, but what I'm more interested to talk about in terms of the reflection is the sort of general environment of the city, because this was not really what I expected. I knew going in that this was going to be a rural part of New York. This is New York City, right? This is Ithaca. But I didn't realize just how rural. We flew in to this airport in Syracuse, and then I had to take a 2 hour bus ride to get to this city, Ithaca. This was just pure countryside. I mean, I have the images up. Pure trees, pure forest, not anything like you would see here too. It was an amazing sort of nature. Um, and even getting close to the town, it was still there was this the town of Ithaca is like a single urban blot, right? Just like a little drop of ink in a pool of water compared to the surrounding forest. It is very different than like Las Vegas, which is this huge sprawling area, and then only after a long time do you get desert. With Ithaca, it was clear the forest dominated, and even in Cornell, there was countless trees, beautiful things. You could really see the colors shifting for the fall in a way that they don't here. Um, it was it was certainly a great experience. The university was the university, and I cared about that mainly for academic reasons. But in terms of the actual like travel itself, in terms of the city, that's what got me was that sort of divide. And even a little bit outside the city, it was just sort of farms, very spaced out rural housing. I was reminded of, especially the chapter in The Art of Travel, of the city and the country, and the whole idea of Wordsworth's poems and how he wrote about nature. Mainly, I was reminded because some of his logic and his motivations struck me as being exceedingly similar to some of the things I heard from people at Cornell. Um, One of the things people kept repeating was, "Oh, you have to have something besides, your work as a grad student to keep you sane." What did they like to say though? What was that things you could do? Only so much you could do in that tiny town. What they wanted to do was go out into nature. One of my little guides was like a tour guide for a tour in Cornell talked and said, "Oh, I love going out in nature. That's how you recenter yourself, right?" It made me think of literally the quote in The Art of Travel about how Wordsworth, what was it, proposed that nature was an indispensable corrective to the psychological damage inflicted by life in the city, um, which is something, right? And it reminded me of that tremendously. It was a similar case, right? Like the university work is important, but it's harsh on the mind, harsh on the psychology. I have to get out into nature and cure it, you know. And it really felt like this whole little town was very close to nature in a way that you don't see in Las Vegas because again the city is urban, but it's so limited. Immediately you get farmland and pure forest. It's a very different environment, a very different perspective. I'm reminded in that same chapter on page 128, there's a quote. Perhaps unhappiness can stem from having only one perspective to play with. I'm not unhappy, but I really did think of that. It was a very different type of nature and a very different type of environment and relationship to nature that the people had there compared to, say, in this city. And I absolutely thought that was a huge takeaway. Um, the university was the thing itself, but it wasn't the environment. It was just one object. What made the city was those woods, right? That was like the character of the whole place. Um, and if I do go there, I suppose I'm going to have to be used to living much closer to nature than I ever have here. Talk about learning a new perspective in the most direct way possible. If I do go there, it'll be an experience worth having.